thoughts on the Ruby Princess, first of all. There's just sort of developments after developments. Today we're learning that it started in a kitchen and they continued to serve meals after warnings were already given on board. I mean, how do you wrap your head around everything that's going on what has been called the debacle?
Well, it's a disaster. 1 in 10 people that have got the virus in Australia are linked back to that cruise ship. 1 in 3 people that have died from the virus in Australia are linked back to that cruise ship. You've got 1,000 doctors and nurses and kitchen hands in the hospital system in northwest Tasmania that are in effective lockdown now because no one was checked when they got off that cruise ship. You've got 5,000 people, I think, in Tassie that are in quarantine. If I was in Tasmania at the moment, I'd be bloody angry because there's been a massive failure of border protection here. And it just goes to show, if you don't check people when they get off a cruise ship, then it can cause all sorts of mayhem. And we're witnessing that in Tasmania right now.
Yeah, well, we had Jackie Lambie on the show a short time ago, and she has got great concerns about the future ahead for Tasmania. The place is being locked down, but businesses are falling one after the other very quickly. I mean, one of the problems too, Jason, is that no one's owning up to it. I mean, there is an investigation that is taking place at the moment. Would you support a royal commission?
It's got to be some sort of independent inquiry, whether it's a royal commission or the independent inquiry that the New South Wales government is talking about. We've got to get to the bottom of this. Sort of failure is an orphan here, and we've got half a dozen different organisations at a state or a federal level that should have pulled their finger out and stopped people and checked their temperatures when they got off that ship. They didn't do it, and as a result, people are dying and people are getting sick. The government beats its chest and says how good they are at border protection. Well, they did a bad job here, and as a result, we're seeing bad results. As I said, 1 in 10 people that have got the virus are linked back to that ship, and 1 in 3 people that have died are linked back to that ship. We need an independent inquiry to work out what happened and who's responsible, and heads should roll a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what the public would expect too, and perhaps do you think that's why no one wants to own up to it, Jason, because whoever is responsible will surely have to lose their job?
Well, you'd think so, but tough. We've got to get to the bottom of this. It's causing an outbreak of the virus in northwest Tasmania. It's causing an outbreak in other parts of the country as well, all because there was a massive stuff up. And it's not good enough to say it wasn't me or it's their fault. People hate the blame game, and so an independent inquiry that gets to the bottom of it, works out who stuffed up where, has to happen and has to happen soon. OK, just on the Treasury forecast this morning, 10% is the unemployment rate. It could have been worse, is what they're saying. It may well eventually get worse down the track. But what are your thoughts on those figures? Well, I think that's right. It would have been much higher without the JobKeeper payment. That's why we argued for a job subsidy. I'm glad the government has agreed to implement that. We could get it even lower if the job subsidy applied to short-term casual workers. And Josh Frydenberg could still do that. With a stroke of a pen, he could apply that subsidy to short-term casuals, and that would reduce the unemployment rate even lower. Remember, these aren't just numbers, these are people. Back in the 90s when we went into recession, I remember my old man lost his job, along with hundreds of thousands of other people. He was lucky he got another full-time job. But a lot of people never got a full-time job again. And this idea that there's a snapback and everything's back to the way it was, like, Samantha from Bewitched wiggles her nose and suddenly, the past hasn't happened, is a bit naive. For a lot of people, they won't get a full-time job again. Or if they do, they're going to be in a lot more debt, have less superannuation, the house is worth less, they've got to work longer before they can go into retirement. The economic hangover of all of this is going to be with us for a long, long time to come. And that's why that job subsidy is important, and we could potentially extend it to other workers to help them get through. I think most people would agree it's better to keep people linked to their job than on the Centrelink queue, and that's what that's all about.